Welcome back to Life Stories, where we explore the deepest corners of human experience: love, loss, betrayal, and resilience. Today's story is one of quiet strength and unshakable courage. A woman receives a life-changing gift from her late father, only to have it stolen by the very people who called her family. What unfolds is not just a tale of financial deceit, but of emotional survival and personal rebirth. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to begin today's powerful story, because sometimes the greatest strength comes from standing alone. They say grief reveals the truth in people. I never expected that truth to come wrapped in betrayal, especially from the man I loved for nearly a decade. My name is Emily. I am 36 years old, and until not long ago, I thought I had a quiet, solid life with my husband Mark. We lived in a modest but cozy home in Austin, Texas. We never had children, but we had built a rhythm together: Sunday brunches, late-night movies, shared silences that once felt comfortable. I believed we were in sync. I believed we were safe. 7 months ago, my father passed away. He wasn't a man of extravagance, but he had always been careful, deliberate. He worked a quiet job in logistics, saved what he could, and never spoke much about money. But he had a life insurance policy. When the dust of the funeral had settled, I received a sum just over $215,000. He told me before, several times, "This is for your future, Em. Use it when it feels right." And I had nodded, not thinking the moment would come so soon. When the money landed in my account, I cried, not because I was happy, but because it felt like holding the weight of my father's love in my hands. I felt a responsibility to protect it, to honor his intentions. I didn't splurge. I didn't even upgrade my 6-year-old phone. I placed the majority of it into a high-yield savings account in my name only. I made the detail clear to Mark, not because I didn't trust him then, but because it felt like the kind of boundary my father would have wanted me to keep. I had also recently quit my job, not because of the money, but because the environment had turned toxic. Mark seemed supportive. "Take your time," he said. "We'll figure it out together." And I believed him. I truly did. Then came the family barbecue at his sister Lauren's house. A typical sunny Sunday in Austin. Paper plates stacked high with ribs and brisket, folding chairs scattered across a dusty lawn, and children running wild with sticky hands and grass-stained knees. It should have been unremarkable, even pleasant, but that day changed everything. I was sipping sweet tea under the shade of a large oak when Carol, Mark's mother, brought it up out of nowhere. She didn't even look at me when she said it. "You're lucky your daddy thought ahead. Must be nice to not have to worry like the rest of us." I gave a soft, cautious smile. "Yeah, I'm grateful." But Mark didn't let it end there. "She's not even working right now," he said loudly. "She's just sitting on it." The words hit me like a slap. I blinked at him, confused, and before I could gather my thoughts, Lauren chimed in, followed by Brittany, the other sister. "We were thinking it'd be smarter if we used it for something that benefits everyone." I felt my cheeks flush, my throat tighten. They had talked about this without me. There was no question in their tone, no curiosity, just a collective assumption that the money wasn't really mine, but somehow theirs. "You've got money you're not using," Brittany added. "We want to invest land, maybe real estate, or a small business. Something smart." Mark sat back in his chair, arms folded. Like this was all perfectly logical. "It's not like you need it, Em. You're not working. You've got no debt. We could build something bigger." I wanted to scream. Instead, I swallowed the rising panic and said quietly, "I'll think about it," then offered to help clean up. That night, I barely slept. Something inside me had shifted. A deep unease settled in my bones. I didn't know what was coming, not really, but I felt the ground beneath me start to crack. And I had no idea how deep the fault line would go. The morning after the barbecue, I went to pay Duke's vet bill. Nothing major, just a follow-up checkup for his arthritis. As I stood in line, I pulled up my phone and opened my banking app. My thumb hovered over the screen, lazily distracted, until I saw the balance. 36 cents. My heart stopped. I stared. refreshed the app. Then again, I tapped into my savings account, the one with my dad's money. Empty. I don't remember leaving the clinic. I don't remember getting home. Just the sound of my own breathing, the frantic pace of my pulse in my ears, and the shaking in my hands as I dialed Mark's number. He answered like nothing was wrong. Hey, what's up? I didn't bother with pleasantries. Where is my money? A pause, not a long one. Not enough for guilt to seep through, just enough to register surprise that I'd noticed this quickly. Calm down, he said. I moved it. You what? I just transferred it into an account with my name on it too. It's safer this way. Safer for who? I asked, my voice trembling. He exhaled like I was being unreasonable. We all agreed you didn't really need it. I repeated. Honey, I've been talking to Lauren and Brittany. We figured it was time to put the money to work. It's not like you were using it. Something inside me broke. The casual tone, the collective assumption, the idea that my grief money, my father's final gift, could be reproposed without a shred of permission. What Mark didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had already begun to suspect something was off. The way conversations would suddenly stop when I walked into a room, the half-finished sentences, the knowing glances between Mark and his sisters. I had been taking screenshots of texts, saving bank notifications, and even recording conversations. I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't ignore the signs either. That's when I called Josh, my cousin on my mother's side, the one who works in financial investigations. I was in tears, barely forming sentences, but he understood immediately. Don't confront them again, he told me. Let me handle this. And so, I did. For 3 weeks, I lived like nothing had happened. I smiled. I kissed Mark goodnight. I laughed at his mother's jokes. And every evening, I sent Josh everything. Every suspicious Venmo note. Every silent transaction. Every weird email Mark forwarded to himself from my laptop. Josh's team traced the money to a shell company registered under Brittany's name. They discovered Lauren had used part of it for a business deposit. Carol had even tried to get her church to see you sign a loan using my funds as collateral. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was legal. It was calculated. It was theft. And the worst part, they didn't think I'd notice. They believed I was grieving too much to fight back, too soft, too trusting, and maybe once upon a time I was. But not anymore. It all came to a head one chilly Thursday evening, the kind of quiet that falls just before a storm settled in our house. I was sitting on the couch, binder in hand, my arsenal of truth, every screenshot, every transaction, every whisper caught on audio. My heart was a fist in my chest. Mark came home with Carol and Brittany, their faces tight with purpose. It felt like an intervention, only twisted. You've been acting hostile, Mark began. Brittany chimed in. You're sitting on money that could help this whole family. Carol, ever self-righteous, added. God wouldn't want you to be selfish, Emily. They were speaking to me like I was a problem to be solved, not a woman they loved, not family, just an obstacle. Mark leaned forward. It's not like we stole it. It's all in the family. That was it. I stood up, pulled out my phone, and looked Mark in the eyes. Then you won't do this either, I said, and hit send. A knock thundered through the house seconds later. The front door opened. 3 investigators walked in, clean-cut, professional, but with that air of quiet authority that fills a room like smoke. One of them held up a badge. Mark Bennett, he said, we have some questions about unauthorized financial activity connected to this address. Mark froze. Brittany backed into the hallway like she could disappear into the walls. Carol stood, already trembling. This is a misunderstanding, she said, voice high and thin. The lead agent turned to me. You're Emily, correct? I nodded. He handed me a folder. Please confirm that these transactions were made without your consent. I opened it. My world unraveled again, only this time on paper. There were copies of forged checks, wire transfers, a shell company's charter, even signatures I'd never written. Mark stared at me. You did this? He whispered. I didn't blink. No, Mark, You did this. They scattered quickly. One agent went to the Home Office. Another questioned Brittany, who was now sobbing in the kitchen. Mark stammered something about not needing a warrant. They had one. It was stapled to the front of the folder. Carol kept repeating. She was just sitting on it. We were trying to help. They talked around me as if I were invisible, but I didn't move. I went into the bedroom, pulled out the binder, and handed it to the lead agent. He raised an eyebrow. You were prepared. I've been ready for weeks. It contained everything Mark's messages to Brittany about draining the account. Before I changed my mind, a voice recording of Carol saying she'd handle me if I didn't cooperate. A bank slip with Lauren's forged signature. It wasn't just theft. It was a conspiracy. They weren't trying to help. They were trying to erase me financially, legally, emotionally. But I saw them. I saw them all. And for the first time in weeks, I wasn't afraid. In the weeks that followed, the truth only dug itself deeper. Investigators uncovered forged therapist notes, fake documents. Carol had even tried to have me declared mentally incompetent. They planned to take my father's gift, not just by force, but by rewriting who I was. But the truth has a way of breaking through, no matter how deep it's buried. Mark took a plea deal. He's serving time now, though to me, no sentence will ever feel long enough. Carol is still fighting her charges, but the evidence is overwhelming. Brittany cooperated with the authorities and received probation. Lauren? She walked away legally untouched but emotionally shattered. I moved out of that house and into a quiet little condo near downtown Denver. It's not grand. It doesn't need to be. It's mine. It's peaceful. I can breathe again. People often say blood is thicker than water, but the full saying is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. To me, that means the bonds we choose. The people who show up when everything falls apart, those are the ones who matter. Mark was my husband. His family called me sister, daughter-in-law. But when it counted, not one of them stood beside me. They lied, stole, and tried to silence me. They underestimated me. And they were wrong. I grieved my father twice, once when I buried him, and again when they tried to erase the last thing he left me, but I didn't let them. And I never will. Thank you for listening to my story. If you found meaning in it, or if you've ever had to fight for your voice, your truth, subscribe to Life Stories for more true narratives like this one. We share, we heal, and we grow together.